Hello! It's your boy, Nurp, the legend, I guess. I'm not really legendary, but it's your boy, and welcome to sort of different type of video that I've kind of had in my mind. I wanted to do a kind of discussion video about the new Dead by Daylight Project W update that just sort of dropped 2 days ago. This is a sort of first impressions kind of, I guess. I mean, it's been out for 2 days, but we still don't really know as much as we will in like a few days or a few weeks from now about the new update. So yeah, let's just jump right into it. I've recorded this once, but it got saved in the wrong format. I'm so sad. So let's unfortunately do this again. So I do have some notes written down about some good and bad stuff, and just some sort of personal feelings about the update overall. So yeah, let's just go ahead and get started with what I think is bad about the update. Because let's be honest, not everything's perfect. Even the most perfect video games out there, they still have their issues. And we're going to focus on the killer first, the Mastermind, aka Albert Wesker from Resident Evil 5, or just the Resident Evil franchise. I want to start with probably the most debated thing right now in the community and sort of biggest talked about thing, and that being his virulent bound hitbox. Now, in the PTB, it used to be way too big, and you used to bump into everything, sort of like how Blight used to be back in his PTB. Now, they made his hitbox way smaller to where now he won't bump into anything, but I think they overcorrected with his hitbox change and made it way too tiny. Now, I think it is too tiny because I literally think that his like dash hitbox is about the same as, like, hitting someone is about the same as Deathslinger. I'm not kidding you. Like, Deathslinger shot. It is so tiny. It is so hard to hit people correctly with your power. And sometimes it's not even worth to use your power. Sometimes you'll just cancel and just hit them with an M1 to guarantee a hit. So yeah, I think it's good that they tightened his hitbox, but I think they overcorrected. Now, I'm not saying for them to move his hitbox like a way bigger, like to where he'll constantly hit you, right? I'm not saying that. I think they should just maybe add a little more to it, because I think right now it's a little too tiny. Alright, next sort of problem with Wesker, other than his tight hitbox, is this weird bug. I'm pretty sure it's a bug. I don't think they intended for this to happen, but it's a bug sort of with collision and his power. So sometimes this is really prevalent on Swamp. Playing Wesker on Swamp, you'll really notice this. Sometimes Wesker will get you in his bound, and he will go in to slam you. But instead of slamming you, he'll just infect you and let you go. Now, I'm not entirely sure what causes this to happen. I've had it happen on the Swamp, and then I've had it happen like where I grab them and we're like going off a ledge. I just kind of let them go because there's nothing to slam on, too. I think the latter, where you kind of grab onto someone and you're just in the air, I think that makes sense. You'll just let go of them, right? You won't like drop them, or you won't slam them into the air, basically. Or so I think that makes sense, but it's kind of weird that it happens on Swamp with objects. I think it's just something to do with like collision reading with his power and the maps overall, because we all know Dead by Daylight's collisions are on maps are definitely weird, to say the least. They're definitely not good. So yeah, that bug with Wesker is definitely really annoying, because that kind of paired with it being hard to hit people with his power kind of makes you a little frustrated. I'm not gonna lie, when you grab someone and slam them into something and you just don't get a hit. Overall, Wesker is rough around the edges, I would say. He's definitely still very buggy, because he's like a very, very unique killer in Dead by Daylight, because no killer has sort of had kind of like a semi-dash. Like, he's not full movement like Billy or Oni. He's just sort of movement with some anti-loop too with his power. So he's sort of unique, and I understand why it's sort of buggy, but I do want him to get refined, which I think they will hopefully do over the next bug patch and bug fix. I can't speak, sorry. Now I want to tackle sort of also pertaining to Wesker, his perk Awakened Awareness getting nerfed. I think this is unfortunately very, very sad, because it's just kind of a problem, and I think it just highlights the problem of Nurse just being leagues better than literally every other killer in the game. And it's just unfortunate. That's all I have to say, you know. Yeah, it just kind of sucks. I mean, it's still a usable perk, but it's not as good as it was probably going to be, because Awakened Awareness Starstruck Nurse is probably going to be one of the strongest things of the game. For killer side, at least. Alright. So, I think that's kind of my sort of gripes with Wesker. I think, unfortunately, he's just buggy. Alright, so let's move on, change gears from just Wesker to moving on to the update kind of as a whole. The new map, RPD, I think overall is a lot more fair, I guess. It's still very, very stupid, some palette placements. I think they went a little overboard. Like, there's especially one palette that really, really kind of bugs me. It's when you're outside, so at the back, like, entrance of RPD, sort of back gate, there's like one palette like next to a door, and I swear I'm not even standing near that palette, and it just hits me because it's just such a stupid placement for that palette. It's not a god palette or anything, because you can walk around it, but it's like every time you don't expect it, so you just get slammed in the face. And I feel like the hitbox definitely will hit you no matter what. So yeah, I think the palettes, it's not as strong as the game. Definitely not. I think the game has more god palettes, but there is still some god palettes in RPD. I still will definitely dread going there as a killer. So yeah, there's RPD. I think the last kind of gripe, I guess, can't really be a gripe. I think this is just sort of like a feeling I have. I wouldn't count this as a bad, really. Is survivors bringing stronger stuff because of the blood web reduction cost. And what I mean by this is I've noticed that I've been sent to, and I've noticed Starva, who's a very big streamer, everyone knows him. We get sent to very, very survivor favored maps more often, like Irie or Haddonfield, or the game. I've been sent to the game, I think, once. Now, I haven't really noticed there might have been an uptick, I'm not sure. I'm thinking there was for me. I definitely noticed more map offerings. That kind of irked me. So yeah, but this is why I don't count it as kind of bad, because on the killer side, we can do the exact same. We can send survivors to killer-sided maps, like, what's a killer-sided map off the top of my head? Midwich, that's the big one. We can definitely send survivors to Midwich and just screw them over. So yeah, I think that can be rough, and also for add-ons, like you're gonna be seeing a lot more medkits and strong medkits, and you're gonna be seeing a lot more strong toolboxes. But again, the flip side can be sort of said for killer. We're gonna be seeing probably even more strong blights and strong nurses, because it's easier overall to get the OP add-ons. Now there's already a lot, so this is unfortunately gonna be like people are like, ugh, another nurse, or ugh, another blight. But I think overall, the blood web offer, which we'll be getting into later with the good, is a really solid change. Anyways, I think that's pretty much all the bad I have written down on my notes and I can kind of think of. I think I had more bad in my previous recording, but I'm not going to stress about it and think. I think that's just kind of some stuff that I wish would be better. But with the bad out of the way, let's get to the good. First off, let's get back to Wesker. Wesker is an amazing killer. He is the funnest I've had with a killer in a long time. I'm genuinely addicted to him. I'm probably going to main him. Not just for this update. I'm probably going to main him for the rest of the game, I think. He is so fun for me to play. And I just have such a good time playing him. I also think with Wesker, I think he's a strong killer, but he's one of the more balanced ones, if that makes sense. Like, he can definitely screw you up at windows, especially. But pallets are still pretty solid against him, and round loops are pretty solid against him. Like, rock loops really are, you can play them pretty well against Wesker. Rock loops are really solid. And yeah, I think just Wesker is just really fair for both sides. I think, unfortunately, with some of his bugs, he definitely feels weaker than he should be, which I think they will address. But yeah, he is a really fun killer. I think he's very fair for both sides. He's still feels strong, not gonna lie. There is sometimes some techs I've learned with him, overplaying him for like an 11-hour day and then like a 9-hour day the next day. So I played him a decent amount the 2 days he's been out. There's some techs that you can do as a Wesker that are very strong. Like, the biggest one that I've kind of found that I don't really have seen anyone else using is body blocking with him. So what you'll do is his virulent bound, if you hit somebody, you still have a hitbox. Now they can push you out of the way, but you can actually resist against that a little bit by walking forward or standing still. So they still have to push you out of the way to move to somewhere. That you can use that. I've used that personally to block doors after a dash. I've used that to block windows or pallets. That is very strong. And then I think his power at windows, especially safe windows, windows are a lot weaker. Because I've definitely noticed, especially on Haddonfield, the usual strong, like really OP windows are not nearly as good anymore because Wesker will be right on you right after you vault it, and you'll be stunned, so he will just hit you immediately. So yeah, overall, I think Wesker is a very fair, strong killer. I've seen people say he's B tier. I don't think so. I think some of the techs I kind of found, I think he's still A tier. Don't get me wrong, some of the bugs right now, he's definitely probably weaker than he should be, but I still think he's a very solid A-tier killer. And that is just very fun and good for both sides of the game. Alright, so kind of backpedaling from the Mastermind, Wesker, going back to sort of the update overall, I want to talk about the Blood Web grind reduction. This is such a good change. Out of every change to this update, this is easily the best one. I think the Blood Web grind reduction definitely mitigates sort of the problems of the new prestige system kind of a ton. The new prestige system, like, you always get sent back to like a crappy Blood Web, but now it doesn't really mean much because you're barely spending any BP at the start anymore. And it's just such a good reduction. It's a 33% reduction to the grind, I think. I've heard from some people. It is really good, and it's probably, honestly, one of the best changes in this game. I'm not kidding you. It is such a good change. Like, it's really good for both sides. It means getting Prestige 3 on every killer and survivor will take a lot less time. That means a lot more people will get sort of all the perks in the game a lot easier, so that they can play the game sort of more competitively at a higher level. And it just unlocking things is very healthy. So, and on kind of the same like Blood Point, I guess, trend, let's talk about the new incentive for both Killer and Survivor. Now, they wanted to introduce a blood point incentive. Unfortunately, it broke like immediately when the new patch dropped. But now it is fixed, actually. And it was working as intended when I was playing yesterday and the day before. I saw it switch between Survivor and Killer. Right now it's more on Survivor because I think more people are playing Wesker right now, which makes sense because he's a new killer that was released. But I did see it jump to Wesker a couple times. I think this, in tandem with the new Blood Web, with the new Prestige system, makes it to where you are going to get everything you possibly want in this game faster. And I think that is very good. I think this is a very good change to blood points overall. And it's just great. Yeah. I think sort of going back to RPD, I do want to touch on that this map is definitely feels better to play overall. I think the palette placements are very, very stupid on some spots, and I think it's kind of still like, and we know behavior, they're not the best at map design, especially as of late. I think the more recent maps have been usually kind of worse. I'm gonna be real. Irie was, I don't like Irie. I mean, it's a really cool looking map, but it's Irie, man. And then you have, let's see, the new RPD. I think it's definitely like, don't get me wrong, it's not as bad as the game, but it's definitely, I'm just happy that they listened to us and sort of nerfed it and got rid of some god palettes and stuff. So, yeah, I think new RPD, I'm happy with the changes, and I think it's a good change overall. Now, that's sort of it with the good I can think of and I see in my notes. I just sort of want to kind of end this video off with kind of my personal feelings about this update. So, overall, I don't think there has been a better time to be a Dead by Daylight fan than right now. I think this update is one of the most healthy updates to the game we've had, with the blood point reduction costs and just blood points overall being better for everybody. It's just really, really good for both sides of the game, and it's so good. I think Wesker is a very, very strong killer that has some text to him that I have learned and I will continue to learn, because I'm going to not only main Wesker, I want to be one of the best Weskers in the game in the future. I want to really sit down with this killer and understand what makes him strong and what makes him weak way more. And sort of continuing on the Wesker, talking about him, I have always been a fan of Albert Wesker. I'm sure none of you are really aware of this because I'm still very small, but I have talked on stream about my love for horror and what got me into it, that being Silent Hill and Resident Evil. Now, I didn't get into horror sort of as like someone expected through horror movies. I got into horror through horror video games, actually, and I really love Silent Hill 2. It is still one of my favorite games of all time to this day. And I love Resident Evil 4, and I love just most of the Resident Evil mainline games. I'm like serious. Most of the Resident Evil mainline games are actually all still hold up like decently well to this day. Like, because I think 1 through 3 is really good. 4 is amazing. 4 is like one of my favorite games. 5, yeah, it's fun. It's fine. And then 6 is kind of a mess, but it's still good. So to see Resident Evil port, it's probably best villain, I would say. Albert Wesker is definitely the best villain of Resident Evil. In such a fun and balanced sort of way. Makes me really happy, not gonna lie. Seeing Wesker like this just makes me feel so much joy. The joy I should have felt with Pyramid Head, because unfortunately I'm not the biggest fan of Pyramid Head and how he plays. But seeing Wesker ported like this makes me so happy, and I'm definitely going to continue maining him probably till the end of the game's life. I think Wesker is such a fun and unique killer. Anyways, we're 20 minutes in. I didn't want to make this too long. So yeah, that's sort of my kind of first impressions. I probably left some stuff out. I'm sorry. This is, like I said, doesn't have a script, just sort of some notes and just going off the top of my head. But I hope you guys enjoyed a sort of different type of video than what I usually do. I'm going to do more of these discussion type videos because I love discussions personally. And yeah, look forward to sort of a Wesker highlight coming up from my 2 days playing Wesker. So, and just look forward to more content from me. Not DBD related, and DBD related. So yeah, this is Nurp signing off. Have a good evening, guys, or day. Bye.